So I had a bad idea. I decided to play through the entirety of Fargo's soul mod using no auto clicker on the clicker class to see if I can defeat the hardest boss, the Mutant, without losing my total sanity. And it all because I wanted to ask a little question. Is it possible to be one of Terraria's hardest mods with the clicker class? And oh man. But before we get into absolutely destroying my forearm, let's just go back to the start of the playthrough where clicking was just a little bit more simple. It all starts off with a beautiful day. I'm turning on Fargo's Eternity mode because that's totally not a mistake. But things right now should be pretty similar to Calamity, except it's a little bit more slower, right? Fargo's as a mod is a little bit more methodical, a lot more crafting, a lot more material based, but for now, things are going to be relatively simple. I got myself a wooden clicker, which is the starting baseline of the clicker class, and what's really interesting about Fargo's mod is that there's actually not a lot of brand new clickers, but rather a lot more accessories to augment our clickers. Our first boss on the list was going to be the Trojan Squirrel, the first mini boss before King Slime in the Fargo's mod. And so we go off and do a little bit of exploring. One of the cool things about Fargo's is that it adds a lot more modifications to the game rather than adding a lot more content. So spiderwebs have an extra debuff, swimming in water gives you a debuff, all that fine jazz. It's fantastic, really. But right now the priority is to craft some golden armor or platinum armor. Having a high base defensive stat is going to be very key because gold/platinum armor can actually scale pretty well. Now at this point in the game, our loadout is pretty decent. We have some mobility, we've upgraded to the golden clicker, and we started finding some desert pyramids, and I found something pretty cool in the desert pyramid. Whoa, a pharaoh clicker. 24 clicks. What? Pharaoh's command. Summons a mask that shoots at your cursor in response to your clicks. And with this brand new item, we go ahead into the battle with Trojan Squirrel. And let's just say our damage was kind of crazy. The Pharaoh's Clicker is a regular clicker class item that I actually just never found. But it shoots out these like projectiles out of like the Pharaoh's head that just scales with your, clicks per second. And with this combined with the golden clicker, killing the Trojan Squirrel was actually pretty easy. The Trojan Squirrel also dropped an acorn clicker, which is one of the first Fargo's add-on clicker class items. It was a little booty. It was not that good, but I decided to spend some time in the jungle, actually. The reason being is because we can go ahead and make the jungle clicker or the pointy clicker. Made out of stingers and a couple of jungle spores, this thing was going to be fantastic because the pointy clicker has a ranged option as its clicking bonus. This was essential right now because if we're going to be fighting the Eye of Cthulhu, we're going to need a little bit of range. And I'm not sure if you guys know this, but the Fargo's Eye of Cthulhu is a demon. It's not regular Eye of Cthulhu. I love the sprite of Eye of Cthulhu in Eternity mode. I think it's my favorite sprite in Eternity mode. Damn. So as you can tell, there's a little bit of a couple of issues already happening in our playthrough. Number one, our range is pretty abysmal. It's not as bad as like my first Calamity playthrough, but what was really nice about Calamity is that Calamity adds in like 10 billion items. So there's a lot more flexibility and versatility in the gear that you can procure. The problem is though, when you're doing a Fargo's clicker class, there's not as much items. So a lot of the things are going to just chalk up to a skill issue. I started looking at like what other clickers I can get. I got the Hemo clicker from the Blood Moon, which wasn't really changing much. I got like the Dark Ore clicker item, which is I think my word was Demonite, but that also wasn't what I needed. I needed something that gave me more range, more DPS, something that is consistent and reliable, and I did not have that yet. And so I ended up fighting King Slime instead. King Slime in Eternity mode was actually pretty easy, I would say. He's a lot more agile, yes, and a lot more slime projectiles, yes, and a lot more slime spawns, yes. But in terms of difficulty, way more easier than the Eye of Cthulhu, who was constantly out of your range. So within a couple of tries, we had King Slime down to a T. Is that it? Wow, I didn't think I could do it. Now, as someone who's done this challenge of Calamity already, you would think I would go in with a better plan for Fargo's, especially maybe having an extra hand. Well, this video is sponsored by pingplayers.com. Did you ever want an extra hand while getting destroyed by bosses? Then look no further than pingplayers.com, a premium game server host made by gamers for gamers. They have servers for Terraria, but if that doesn't tickle your fancy, Pingplayers has a bunch, and I mean a bunch of different games that they provide servers for as well. Honestly, I've been thinking about playing Starbound for like the longest time, and they have a server for Starbound. So if I was done with playing Terraria, I could just go play Starbound with my friends, and the server would be up as fast as, you know what? A little too fast, dare I say. Personally, for me, it's always more fun to play Terraria with friends. And when you can make a server that's on 24/7 in just 60 seconds, that anyone at any time can just join, it just makes the online experience so much more enjoyable. And also, if you pay for the 30-day package, it can be as cheap as 20 cents per day. That's cheaper than a McDonald's meal, dude. So if you guys have ever thought about making a Terraria server that's on 24/7 that you can just share with your friends and they can hop on at any moment in time, then use my code on screen or click the link down in the description for 35% off, baby. I got you. Like I said, it's more fun to play with friends anyway. It just makes the experience more enjoyable and more rage-inducing sometimes. I think that's one of the best parts of having a server that's on 24/7. Like, sure, you can join on Steam, but then what if I want to build a gigantic meatball? So yeah, check out pinkplayers.com using my code or the link in the description. It's right there. It really does help me out when you guys check out my sponsors, and I've worked with pinkplayers.com before, and I'm telling you, a 24/7 server is just amazing. It does wonders for your friendship. It also just helps you get closer with your friends. So yeah, once again, thank you so much to pinkplayers.com for sponsoring today's video. It helps me so much when you guys check out the sponsors, and it helps support this channel. But yeah, anyway, I'm gonna go back to suffering alone now. Now, one of the best parts about the clicker class is the high DPS output that you can do. If you're able to click fast enough, you're able to do a lot of damage. And what's really, really evident is that you can do a lot of damage to worm enemies, at least in Calamity. Fargo's not really. I tried it on the Eater of Worlds and I had to run away. So I started looking at other boss options. If I couldn't kill the Cthulhu, maybe Eater of Worlds, but now I can't do Eater of Worlds, so maybe I gotta do something else. So I instead did a Fargo exclusive boss, the Cursed Coffin in the Desert. This is actually a relatively really cool fight. It consists of a cursed coffin throwing stuff at you and basically kind of keeping you confined in an arena. And because it's in an arena and things are relatively close enough, the clicker class was really good for it. Our range wasn't too out of range and whatnot. We just had to dodge everything perfectly or else we get smushed to pieces of bacon. We could do it. My hand got so tired there. But yeah, I forgot to mention stamina. Yeah, stamina is still a problem. So I decided to introduce an outside cure to my problems of stamina in this game. Energy drinks. And my first victim was the Eye of Cthulhu. The trick is to run completely straight. He cannot hit you. If you run completely straight, but I'm not straight right now. Come on, baby, we can do it. I believe. No, 247. Oh no, he's doing the special attacks. Up heal. Where is he? 1 HP. Ah! I was not nervous. I was simply excited. No, I was not excited. I was juiced off of coffee. But now with the Eye of Cthulhu done, nothing has changed. So the thing that's really cool about Eternity Mode is that a lot of the classes are actually pretty viable. You get a lot of items that kind of overall help you in any way. Like if you're playing one class specifically, there's always going to be another weapon that you can use or an equipment piece that will help you no matter what. The thing is though, since we are playing clicker, a lot of the accessories that we have to be clicker accessories. So we kind of actually have to forego a lot of the Fargo accessories, which actually is pretty bad. But with this brand new newfound skill of an external situation solution thing, I went back and defeated the Cursed Coffin. The Cursed Coffin gives us a Cursed Clicker, which is a brand new Fargo's Clicker, although I'm not really sure if I use it as much because I believe it summons like a sand wave. And right now, just the pointy clicker, just having that extra range to auto track onto someone is the best thing that we can have right now. So I go off and make my first Fargo's enchantment, the lead enchantment. The lead enchantment is pretty unique. You can think of it kind of as an AoE lead poisoning build. By doing damage on one part of an enemy, it can spread to other enemies nearby and deal consistent poison damage. And if you can't see where I'm going with this, the Eater of Worlds would be a fantastic victim for it. But here's the thing, I still kept on dying. Yeah, the Eater of Worlds is really hard. I ended up popping a City Buster on the surface to try to take the arena up to north, right? Up in the skies. The Eater of Worlds has been completely reworked. A lot more projectiles, a lot more splitting, a lot more choreography. You can't just go willy-nilly, just keep smack dabbing with the clicker class as normal, right? And one of the big things is that the Eater of Worlds flies really fast and splits off into multiple parts. But somehow we managed to defeat it. Now, at this point in my playthrough, my biggest goal right now was to defeat Skeletron. If we're able to defeat Skeletron, we can get one of our biggest upgrades, the Gamer Crate. The Gamer Crate is an amalgamation of multiple clicking class accessories, and that should in turn help us give, you know, extra slots or extra accessory slots the opportunity to shine more with all of the Fargo accessories. But before doing that, I went ahead and challenged the Queen Bee instead. The Queen Bee was actually a boss that I'm much more familiar with in Fargo. The AI is not crazy different. It's actually much more manageable, except for the Royal Servant phase. The Royal Servant phase shoots out 2 little Royal Servants, or 1 or 2 at a time, and you need to kill it before Queen Bee. This gives Queen Bee like an insane armor debuff, and because the pointy clicker, or just the clicker class in general, has horrible range, with the Queen Bee flying left and right over and over and over again, this big arena is actually my disadvantage. But the Queen Bee has a very big weakness. One of its attacks makes you stand completely still. You have to hide on like the north or the south part of the arena. And what's really fantastic about standing still when you are the clicker class is you can direct all of your attention to DPS. Come on! Come on! It's so close! Yes! Oh my god! Now, honestly, I can't tell if that shaking was because of the caffeine in my body, but the reason why we did Queen Bee was because we wanted to get the honey glazed clicker. I was under the impression that this thing was gonna like shoot out a bunch of bees that can like home in and kill the wall of flesh or Skeletron and whatnot, but nope, it just covers enemies in honey. That's kind of it. But alas, we go ahead and try Skeletron, who actually is really, really hard. Skeletron is very, very, very tanky, obviously, so you know I have to engage with a lot more stamina in this fight, right? But also what's really interesting about Fargo's Skeletron is that there's a ton, and I mean a ton of projectiles, which I kind of already knew the patterns for. I mean, I've done this fight so many times, but it's more so that I have a range constraint now. Before, I was very content with running away like a little baby, but now I have to be front in the action and fight his arms and his head and all of the projectiles. And here's a really cool thing about Skeletron. Even if you do, like me, on your first try, do really, really, really well. Did you know he had a Dungeon Guardian phase? Come on. He's dead, but he's in Dungeon Guardian mode. No, I got stuck on his bones. A couple of tries later, more than my hands can count, we finally got Skeletron. Nothing too bad. Here comes our biggest power spike in pre-hard mode now. With access to Hellstone bars, I made the red hot clicker, which is a fantastic kind of AoE debuff clicker at the same time. It has good damage, it can debuff. But what's really nice about this stage in the game is we can get the best clicker, in my humble opinion, in the clicker class, the Umbral clicker. We go into the dungeon to pick up some hand cream from the mechanic. This is a clicker class accessory, which we will need to get the gamer crate. And after raiding a couple of Hellstone areas, what's really nice is that you can actually take some of the Hellstone accessories and like convert it into the Umbral clicker. So I went ahead and solidified my like magnet item, and I got the best clicker in all of pre-hard mode. Now, the reason why I glazed this clicker so much is because it has the ability to shoot homing projectiles, which is fantastic. The reason why homing is not only one of the best things you can have for the clicker class, but it allows you to focus more so on clicking rather than aiming. Eventually in hard mode, we'll be able to get the aimbot like accessory and whatnot, but for now, we go ahead and craft the motherboard armor set. The motherboard armor set is a fantastic armor set for the clicker class because instead of focusing more on DPS and damage, it gives you a lot of AoE and a lot of range. This allows you to play much more defensively and allows you to hit from a further distance, and it's going to be one of the most essential, and I mean essential, things to Wall of Flesh. We also go ahead and craft the gamer crate after picking up the mouse pad at the Goblin Tinkerer, allowing us to combine a bunch of clicker accessories into one. Now opening up the possibilities for so many juicy things, and also the possibility of being very much disappointed. I spent some time crafting up the Deviant's Curse, which is the next Fargo boss that we have to fight. The Deviant is a very interesting fight, really. Ow, forgot about that. Ow, forgot about that. Why was I not doing any damage? So the Deviant is actually one of my favorite bosses in Fargo. It has a very hit or miss for me personally. Sometimes I can first try it. Other times I just can't do it. And this is one of the latter. I could not kill it. Look away, look away, look away, look away. She has a Medusa attack. But regardless, this is actually like genuinely one of my favorite fights in pre-hard mode. It is very fair in my opinion, and there's a lot of projectiles. There's a lot of things going on really. And if you're not paying attention, you can easily be in the wrong position and just die. One of the hardest parts about clicker class right now is the fact that since we're accommodating most of our accessories to much more damage as the clicker, because you know, a battle of attrition would be really bad, we don't have as much mobility, making dodging a little bit more harder. But it doesn't matter because we finally defeat the Deviant and pick up the Sparkling Adoration. The Sparkling Adoration is one of probably the best accessories for me that one of the best accessories that I personally like to have. It allows you to basically do a lot more damage if you grace projectiles, and eventually down the line for things like the Mutant, that is going to be something that I think I will rock with. But for now, we're able to craft the Supreme Deathbringer Fairy, which is probably one of the best accessories in pre-hard mode. It is comprised of the body parts and the boss drops from most of the pre-hard mode bosses all into one accessory. For example, Skeletron's hands, the Eye of Cthulhu's circular boomerang spikes, the bee dash. But now we make it onto the Wall of Flesh. Now, I'm going to say it, this was extremely difficult. I remember that. And then now you can't even get too close. You have to watch out for the Cursed Flame. And then sometimes I think they'll do an Iker attack. Are they doing it now? They're not. They're doing it in a bit. I should have brought dash for this. I gotta be close. I gotta be close. I can't see anything. I have no idea what's happening. There's hordes. Heaven is calling me. Oh, we got it. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of held my breath and prayed for it a little bit. We got it. We got it. Well, it was more so hard for me mentally before the fight. I didn't know it was actually gonna be that easy. But now we are in hard mode, ladies and gentlemen. And this is where things are actually going to be much more difficult. I went ahead and got a titanium and adamantite clicker and also made a full set of titanium armor. Our current loadout has like a BTD metal tack shooter ability, but mainly I wanted to get Ichor. I decided to farm for Cursed Flames and then convert them into Ichor with like the Fargo's like, you know, transmutation stuff. But Ichor's really nice because Ichor actually homes onto enemies, and if you can just Ichor them and also have a homing thing, it kind of like knocks it out 2 in 1. So real quick, I just cleaned up Deer Clops because Deer Clops drops the Deer Sinew, which allows you to get a free dash. And this is where the playthrough is really going to start showing the difficulties. The mechanical bosses are genuine hell. The first one I decided to do is the Destroyer, and if you're looking at my screen, I don't know if you can tell, but I have no idea what is happening. And so I decided to consult the magic conch for any enchantments I should make, and none of it was really helping because all of the things it was suggesting is things for other classes or like a multi-class setup, and since we're only playing clicker class, it does not help. So I decided to look for something called the Zephyr boots, which are the upgrade for the Terra Spark boots in the Fargo's mod. I thought that with maybe more mobility, that this fight could be a little bit more possible. Now, it is really tricky because initially, you know, for Calamity, I was able to do the Ashram Deus cheese where I could literally just kill any worm enemies because the clicker class is just so overpowered and doing like stacks and bursts of damage. But I think there's like a damage reduction cap on all of these mechanical bosses, so I decided to try maybe Skeletron Prime, right? Maybe this would work out. But I decided it was a bad idea, so I decided to go for the twins instead, which was an even more bad idea. Like I said, all of these bosses are flying, right? They're up in your face and they're going everywhere. I don't have the capacity to shoot them properly yet. I still have to aim at them. And by the way, these bosses in Fargo's are insane. There are the bullet phases, the bullet hells are crazy. And so I decided to change my options and go for the RGB armor. This armor set is comprised of rainbow slime blocks and hollowed crystals, and it basically gives you like this burst chromatic effect that allows you to pierce through like a bunch of enemies and do just, you know, pretty good damage. And I thought that maybe with this, I could actually just kill the Destroyer as my first mechanical boss, because once we do that, we can get hollowed bars. Well, no, I still kept dying. So I decided to do Skeletron Prime, and Skeletron Prime is equally as much of a bullet hell than everything else. Yeah, I was losing faith. And so I decided to go after Queen Slime instead. Queen Slime drops that one keychain for the clicker class, and I thought that would be a pretty viable option. And with the damage that I was actually doing on Queen Slime, it was not that bad. However, I was still dying a decent amount of times because Queen Slime hits super hard. So I came up with a temporary strategy. Don't worry about HP. Worry about clicking as fast as possible. Come on. Yeah! With this, we have a brand new pair of angelic wings, and we're able to get one of the keychains for the clicker class. This will combine the molten keychain, the slimy keychain, and the crystal keychain to give you, I guess, the best way to describe it, projectiles on your screen that can do continuous damage. And that would be fantastic, and that is exactly what I use on the Destroyer in my Calamity playthrough, so I thought I would try it again. And believe it or not, it was doing wonders. This was the first time ever that I was able to get the Destroyer to somewhat like 20% HP. And finally, after, I don't even want to know how many tries it took. After so long, we got the run. I actually have no idea what's happening. Whoa, we did it right on the dime. Because we killed the Destroyer, we now have access to hollowed bars, which is actually fantastic. The reason being is because we can now get the Arthur's Clicker, which has effects later on as shown, but I still wanted to farm the Destroyer. Using the Arthur's Clicker, aka the hollowed clicker, it shoots out kind of like an area of effect, and this AoE effect is really good on Destroyer because it hits all parts of it and does a lot of damage. The reason why we're farming the Destroyer now, though, is because we want to get a brand new item called the Bottomless Box of Paper Clips. But with the Arthur's Clicker, we went ahead and fought Skeletron Prime, who looks absolutely insane. This was actually really good fight, really hard. But as you can see, once you beat your first mechanical bosses, the rest just becomes so much easier because now instead of spending 5 minutes to kill one boss, you can kind of just out DPS them within 2 minutes. Now, I really wanted to get the Clicker's Essence in the Fargo Soul mod. The Fargo Soul mod adds essences for each of the classes, and because we have the extension for the Clicker class, we can get our Clicker class essence. The thing is, though, a lot of these items are very peculiar in how you get them. For example, one of them, you have to kill a balloon slime multiple times. Some of them are from Goblin Army. But the Gamer's Essence is fantastic because not only is it basically like an upgraded Clicker emblem from the Wall of Flesh fight, it gives you a bunch of other effects, therefore making my twins fight just a little bit more bearable. Oh my gosh, I took a big hit for that. God damn, dude. I'm so glad my face cam isn't on. I am seething right now. This is such an unconventional and bad fight for Clicker class. Oh my god, yes. With that being said, we defeated the twins and also got the bottomless box of paper clips that I've mentioned before, which is a fantastic accessory. It basically allows you to shoot like these paper clips out of bosses per click, and they do a lot of piercing damage and just do a lot of DPS in general. I now started working on a couple of other items that I wanted to get. One of them is called the biogenomic cluster, something like that. It's basically an amalgamation of a lot of accessories that drop from rarer enemies. For example, mimics, Tim, rune wizard, ice golem, sand elemental. You get the idea. What's really cool about this item is not only does it have a bunch of these effects as you can see on screen, but also a lot of the effects, or I believe most of the effects, can actually be activated without equipping the accessory. So you can kind of just leave it in your inventory and it's kind of just helping you out. But anyway, I started to explore some other potential boss options. Instead of going straight for Plantera, I was thinking I should probably conserve my hand speed and go for other bosses like the Lifelite, which is a Fargo's boss. Spoiler alert, it wasn't really going well. This boss was absolutely brutal. A ton of projectiles. It felt like a Toho fight. And I think the reason why this boss was really difficult was because of the movement. Like I said before, the clicker class, you gotta expend a couple of accessory slots on some clicker stuff. So I wasn't really having like the full wings or full mobility capacity that I really wanted to have. So instead, I thought, okay, how about we just jump the gun and try Plantera, who now has this like mushroom skin. Very cool. And not gonna lie, it was actually easier than the Lifelite fight, who was intended to be fought before Plantera. I'm calling it right now. It's gonna be called the clicker's fallacy. Some bosses are just extremely easier simply because of the type of boss fight that it's going to be. And since Plantera is a lot of roaming around or circling around it and just doing a lot of DPS and it's standing still most of the time, we were able to kill it and now have access to Golem. Now Golem is a little bit of an interesting fight. I made the actuation bomb, which basically kind of blows up the arena to make a mini Golem arena fight. Now what's really interesting in Fargo's is that the Golem isn't necessarily like a platform based fight. You have to fight him a little bit differently, kind of like a platformer. You'll see what I'm talking about. But we go ahead and make some precursor armor, which is really accessible once you beat Plantera, because all you need to do is farm like temple enemies. The precursor armor is fantastic because now we got a DPS upgrade, we got defense going on, right? It's the whole shebang. But also we got the lizard clicker to go with it. With all of these items, we should be doing pretty good, I think. And yeah, we are. We defeated the Lifelite, who is a, pre-Plantera boss, defeated with post-Plantera gear, but it doesn't really matter, right? But for now, our current kind of like loadout is the chlorophyte clicker, which shoots out like a gas, the lizard clicker, which shoots out kind of an AoE effect. We picked up the light clicker from the Lifelite, which I'm not really going to use as much, but I went ahead and started going after Golem, who is now reskinned after Sands. This fight is very different from regular Golem fights. It is a very platforming intensive battle. What I mean by that is that, ironically, you actually can't go on any platforms. Instead, you have to jump over pillars of fire and kind of make sure that Golem doesn't squish you up against the wall to deal so much damage. A lot of this fight is being very accurate in where your positioning is. If you're in the wrong spot, you can easily just get crushed with all of the boulders flying from the sky. In fact, I had to pause my game because my wrist was hurting so much. Oh. Don't spank me! No! No, we're so close! Right now, you guys can't really tell, but my accessories are a little bit more different. Right now, I'm rocking the Overclock enchantment, which basically gives you an insane amount of DPS. And with this, we're able to basically do insane bursts of damage as long as we're focusing on our clicking. And this is actually how we defeated Golem. Because of this, we can now actually go ahead and fight the Lunatic Cultist straight up. I've been skipping a couple of bosses, and there's a reason for it. There's just some clickers that are way better than others, and I wanted to prioritize getting them. The problem is, though, the Lunatic Cultist fight was way harder than I thought. A lot of the phases have been reworked. For example, in here, you actually have to identify which is the right Lunatic Cultist, but it's a little bit harder because if you don't identify it in time, it will shoot a bunch of more duplicates, and even if you were to identify it, it still shoots out duplicates. The Lunatic Cultist is definitely not as tanky as, like other mods. However, there is so many more projectiles. It uses all of the pillars to attack, and it's just overall an insane battle. This one surprisingly took a lot of tries, like a lot. So because of that, I decided to explore some other avenues. I tried the Pumpkin Moon event. Maybe the clicker from here, which is I think the Witch clicker, could actually help me out, which actually I believe the set bonus is a different clicking effect every single time. But no, it did not help. So instead, I decided to use the Naughty clicker from the Frost Moon event. This clicker had very good like single damage type DPS, and because the Lunatic Cultist is a single type managed boss, right, I was able to finally kill it, thus propelling us into the Lunar events. Now, I didn't know this about the Lunar events, but apparently Fargo's turns them into kind of mini boss fights. When you take down the shield of the pillar, if you don't kill it in time, they actually regenerate HP, but also every pillar has their own like different types of attacks. For example, the Vortex pillar has like these lightning strikes that come down from heaven and try to strike you down. The Nebula pillar pillar kind of has like this Brain of Cthulhu slash laser phase, just try to confuse you and whatnot, and a lot of projectiles, but still we're able to take these guys out slowly one by one. And as we defeat more pillars, we're able to get mice fragments. With the mice fragments, we're able to craft the mice clicker, which right now is our current best option for DPS. The mice clicker clicking effect gives you the effect of shooting out like these 8 little small pieces of projectiles that not necessarily home, but they follow your mouse. And the thing is, they do a lot of damage. So we go on ahead to fight the Stardust pillar, and we did a little trade. I died, okay, but we still killed it, okay, very valid. And finally, the solar pillar was kind of easy, I'm not gonna lie. But here's where I'm gonna be honest, guys. This Moonlord fight is too hard for the clicker class. I'm being straight up right now. This Moonlord fight, I've done it already several times before. I did in my playthrough about like 2 years ago, and it was really, really fun. I love this fight. But here's the thing that is very unique about the Fargo's Moonlord fight. It actually has resistances to each of the classes, depending on whatever phase it's in. So for example, right now it's in the solar phase. You can only do melee damage towards it, or else all of your other damage is halved. There's Vortex, Nebula, Stardust, and then finally multi-class. But since we're only playing clicker class, we only have one window to deal damage. So I went ahead and just fought the other bosses that I kind of missed. I missed the Banished Baron. I just knocked him off the list. I went ahead and fought the Empress of Light, who is also really cool. One of my favorite Fargo's mod fights, etc. We have, you know, post-lunar events gear, but still the fights itself are a spectacle. They're super fun. But I tried to do the Moonlord, and I just kept on dying. The thing that was really hard about the Moonlord fight is that, yeah, we could technically possibly do it with only the clicker class, with our, you know, damage being halved. But the thing is, these fights were taking 5 to 10 minutes each, and that was destroying my forearm. And I mean, genuinely crushing it, like no strings attached, just absolutely wrecking it. So I decided to cave in, and I decided to use some of the other multi-class weapons, and I finally defeated it. So honestly, in my opinion, I think it is possible to beat, you know, Fargo's with the clicker class, but I just could not do it. It was so difficult. I had to have, you know, some assistance from the other classes. But with that being said, we defeated the Moonlord. We have Gaia armor, which is like the multi-class armor set, and we are now in Post-Moonlord, where things are going to get even more harder. So here's where things get a little bit more off-camera mining, I guess. A lot of the items we need to get now are very, and I mean very, tedious to get. Now, okay, I love it about Fargo's Soul, but when you're doing it again for like the second or third time, it just gets a little bit tiring. However, after 2 years, I didn't mind it. I loved Fargo's Soul. The biggest thing that we need to get is the souls. The souls, or the forces, or the enchantments, are basically just items that are comprised of a lot of other items. The first thing we made was the Crucible of Cosmos, and now I wanted to get the soul for getting the mouse clicker. I ended up doing kind of an off-the-beat shot. I basically just kind of took a break for the night and just did it all overnight. And in that little time skip, I got a lot of the souls. The biggest ones we got were the Supersonic, the Flight Mastery, the Clicker, and the Colossus Soul. These souls will ensure mobility, they will ensure tankiness, and ensure damage. I also went ahead and got the Mouse Clicker armor set, and I also got the Heart of the Master. This is a bunch of like boss item stuff that's just stuffed into one accessory. And what's really cool right now is that we're going to be stepping into the mini bosses of Fargo Soul mod. The first mini boss we do is the Champion of Timber, who is basically a stronger version of the little Trojan squirrel at the beginning of the game. All of these bosses are way more buffed. However, they're still mini bosses. They're not going to do a lot of damage. The patterns are relatively simple, and with our brand new loadout and a bunch of brand new accessories, we're able to quickly take them out. The reason why you want to do these champions is because they will start dropping forces. When you defeat one of the champions, they will drop a ton of enchantments pertaining to their like specific topic, and when you get all of them, you can combine them to make a specific force. So for example, if you defeat the Champion of Timber enough, you'll eventually be able to get the Timber Force, which is all of the wood enchantments all into one item. So we go ahead and fight the Champion of Terra, which does the same exact thing. This was a very easy boss. In fact, we actually kind of really destroyed it. And right now we're just farming for all of the forces, because if we can get all of the forces, we have kind of a wider arrangement of enchantments that we can have, and depending on what accessory that we need, like, I don't know, maybe we need more damage or we need like more survivability, we can pick the best enchantment for us. The next one is in the Underworld, the Champion of Earth. Like I said, these bosses are relatively simple, even though I died to the Champion of Earth, but more often than not, you're able to kill them at least within 1 to 3 tries, and then farm the rest of the other stuff and get the enchantments you need. The next one is a Hydra boss called the Champion of Nature. You fight him in the underground tundra biome with a bunch of lasers and a bunch of projectiles, which are actually pretty simple to dodge once you get it down. Like I said, all of these champions are really easy, but I love the design, and I guess I kind of like it in this stage of the game. Like more often than not, like whenever you're playing like really long playthroughs or you're fighting a lot of bosses, a lot of the bosses towards the latter half of the game are very, I don't know, kind of really hard. So these were kind of just like a nice chill thing to do. Next thing was the Champion of Life, which is kind of like a life light fight, and this boss was pretty easy as well. It's a calm fight. You're able to clean up all the enchantments that you don't have. Now the next champion champion, which is like the champion of, I think, Shadow or Darkness or something like that. This guy did actually get me. It's a lot of Skeletron projectiles, and I cannot solve it. However, the champion of Will, which is kind of like a Duke Fishron fight by the ocean, was pretty trill, dare I say. By this point in the game, if you've already fought like all of the other Fargo's bosses and all of the other changes that they've made to the vanilla bosses, you're gonna be kind of trilling through these boss fights. I then went ahead and went into the desert to fight the champion of Spirit, which has a really unique mechanic where even if you defeat it, if it grabs you and pushes you in its like sarcophagus thing, he's able to siphon HP, and this actually did get me, and it made me give up. Not really. Here's the thing. Even if we got all the enchantments we needed, we actually can't even combine them because we actually need an item from a later boss. So I decided to go ahead and fight the final champion, Oridinus. This is actually gonna be really hard. He cycles through all of the lunar stuff. Oh my god, I hate this move. Second phase. Things get serious. Vortex. Oh fuck, wrong direction. Nice. Lasers down. Lasers down. Lasers down. Oh. Heal in 2 seconds! No, what the? What is this? Oh, I got it. Oh, we killed him. Oh my god, we killed him. Dude, you know what's crazy? When I originally fought him for the first time, I think it took me like 2 days. But now, with that being said, with kind of most of the champions out of the way, I decided to make the executive decision to go ahead and skip the other enchantments and go ahead and fight Abominationn. There's actually no reason why we actually need all of the forces right now because we're not even going to be able to combine them unless we defeat Abominationn, which is a pretty difficult boss fight. It's a fight between gods right now, dude. Now he's in his true form. I can see your attacks. Ow! Fuck! What the fuck? Ah! Damn. Oh, God. I forgot about that. Damn it! I'm burning to death. I'm dead. Oh no! Cross corners. Ow. Crap. Hog in the middle. Dodge missiles. I don't know. Oh god, this was hard. Damn! You know what? I have a plan. I'm gonna fight Oridinus again real quick. Oh my god, my wrist. But now, after defeating Abominationn, we have one more boss left, the Mutant. But we have a lot of things to prepare for. Before we fight the Mutant, which is the hardest boss in Fargo Soul, we're gonna need a lot of things, including 6 armor. We're going to start getting a bunch more souls to combine them and free up our accessory slots, which it's gonna take a while. It's gonna take a while of crafting, but luckily for you, you're watching this video. So basically, in the about, let's say, 7 to 8 hours of grinding, I went ahead and made the Styx armor set. This is a direct upgrade, not necessarily to the clicker class, but in survivability and doing damage. And I also went ahead and got the Magical Clicker. The Magical Clicker is the final Fargo's clicker class extension item. This thing does an insane amount of damage, and this is what we're going to be using against the Mutant. I then went ahead and crafted the Soul of Dimensions. This is a combination of all of the souls that we currently have, but we do need two more souls, which is the World Shaper for building and the Fishing Soul that I both kind of grinded off camera. They took way too long, but luckily for us, Fargo's and a lot of quality of life did make it a little bit more easier. The next thing I wanted to make was kind of the boss item soul. I kind of forgot the name name, but basically you need to defeat the Dungeon Guardian for this, which was a relatively interesting fight. But because we have so much more accessory slots available, we're able to basically be a little bit more free in like how we use our accessory slots. And I don't know, I was just kind of asking like the magic conch, like, what should I have? And I was just crafting everything and just putting it all, and then, you know, reforging it to menacing and whatnot. But now with the best enchantments, with apparently the best items or best accessories in the game, with a decent armor set, we should be able to defeat the mutant, right? Let's do this. Oops. I need to disable my dash. Never understood how to solve this phase. Never understood this phase. All good. Dude, I gotta disable my rolls and dashes. Oh my god, my dashes! There it is. Just the first phase. Here's where it starts. The final battle for the world! I died immediately. You have to hide in the hole of it. Please, can you go upstairs? He's throwing pillars at me. Left, right, right, left. I've been revived again. Dang it. Dude, I ran into the wall. Oh. Final phase. I did it. Oh my god, I did it. And that, my ladies and gentlemen, folks and ladies and boys, that was the Fargo's mutant fight with the clicker class. Honestly, I spent more time just kind of gathering items, but still, this is a very possible playthrough. Moonlord is definitely the hardest one. I'm sorry that I had to kind of cheese it in a little bit of a different way by getting, you know, all the other class items, but this was a fantastic and fun playthrough. I don't recommend you do this. However, I'm glad that I did it. It was pretty fun. But yeah, guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and it's been Adrian.